Hi, I'm Bill O'Reilly. Thanks for watching us tonight. Where the campaign stands right now. That is the subject of this evening's Talking Points memo. ABC News poll, good news for Donald Trump, has him just 4 points behind Hillary Clinton. NBC News poll, not so good news. He's down by 11 in that one. And CBS News poll, Trump down by 9. Talking Points believes the Fox News poll, which has Trump down by 7, is most likely the most accurate. But with 3 weeks remaining, the question is, can that gap be closed? There are a few things that Donald Trump must do. First, put aside the feuding. Gets him nowhere with voters, take on people like Paul Ryan. Second, while he must defend himself against charges he believes are scurrilous, he should quickly dispatch those charges and hone in on 3 major themes. They are stagnant economy, illegal immigration, chaos overseas. Also, with the WikiLeaks stuff, Mr. Trump has plenty of ammo for Wednesday night's debate. As for Hillary Clinton, she's off the campaign trail this week, resting up for the debate in Las Vegas. That's smart. She's ahead. But she can't sit on her lead if the debate is won by Donald Trump. If the secretary dominates on Wednesday night, she's in. But if Trump hammers her, Mrs. Clinton will have to compete. Her best strategy in Vegas is to mostly ignore Trump and talk directly to the voters, trying to convince them she's not corrupt. Now, the big picture. It all pretty much comes down to 4 states: Florida, Ohio, North Carolina, Pennsylvania. Trump needs to take 3 out of those 4 and win the West, that is Nevada, Colorado, and the rest of the red states out there. There's no question that Hillary Clinton is better positioned right now. But again, things change fast in this terrible campaign. I say terrible because it's just one personal attack after another on both sides. And that has weakened both Trump and Hillary Clinton.
I think the question becomes for her and for voters, is she going to be able to govern? You talk to lots of people who are her supporters, and they say, you know, she may be elected, but will be president. And part of this, she's got to kind of face, this isn't just about Trump, it's about her.
Now, the polls show many Americans, perhaps most, are voting against rather than for one of the candidates. First time in my life that has happened. And that's a memo. Now for the top story reaction. Joining us from Washington, Charles Krauthammer. So, Charles, the recent polls say only about 10% of Americans are still persuadable. But with new smears every day on both sides, I'm not sure that statistic is valid. What say you?
Well, it's hard to know exactly what it means to be persuadable. I think what's remarkable about the 2 candidates is how well known they are. You go back over the last few election cycles. Did anybody, were there a lot of people who knew about Romney before he ran, even John McCain, John Kerry? You go back and it is very unusual to have 2 candidates who are universally known, name recognition up there at 90%, have been around for a good 30 years. So opinions were formed going into the campaign. We have now been at it for a month and a half. They are out there. I don't think there's very much new. What is new, and I think the one thing that Trump can do, is the WikiLeaks stuff. That's new information coming out almost every other day. And it isn't enough to say that she's a crook or a liar or whatever, because look at what's in WikiLeaks. You got to pick 3 items, and there are a lot. Just pick any at random.
But wait a minute.
And make that the point of your attack on Hillary Clinton.
So if I'm Trump, then I'm going to go the open borders comment. I'm probably going to go Catholic Church and what that really is the message. But most of the WikiLeaks stuff isn't about Hillary Clinton. It's about Podesta, the campaign manager, saying questionable things to the campaign staff, or the Clinton Foundation people saying questionable things to the State Department, and the State Department saying questionable things. So there's no video or audio of Hillary Clinton saying anything, and even the open border quote, it's hard to get that in context because we don't know the whole speech. So I don't know if that's going to really resonate as much as the Trump stuff has.
Oh, look, no, it's not going to. Of course, a tape will beat text every time. Sex will beat corruption anytime. Nonetheless, since we are not at the peak of that frenzy, we're going into the last debate. It doesn't matter if the overwhelming majority of the stuff in the WikiLeaks is about staff. You've got 90 minutes to talk about 10,000 emails. You only need 1 or 2 or 3 items having to do with Hillary. One of the most damaging is that she says you've got to have a public position and a private position. That goes to the essence of her weakness, that people think, probably correctly most of the time, that she doesn't believe in anything and that she is driven by ambition. In the WikiLeaks release today or over the weekend, you see her scolding her speechwriters because they weren't able to crystallize what her campaign is about. And I think she suggested the 4 fights. It sounded like a slogan for the leadership of the Chinese Communist Party. They don't know what it's about because it really isn't about anything.
Well, it's united, we're stronger, or we're stronger together, or
what does that
hope
mean?
and change. Let's go back to hope and change. That was a good one. Now, Wallace, Chris Wallace, he's your pal. You guys hang around and have mulch together and stuff. Wouldn't it be his job rather than Trump's job to bring the WikiLeaks stuff up and specifically say, you know, what'd you mean about the open border? What'd you mean about private and public? What did you mean? What'd you mean? And then hold her to account on that. Do you expect Wallace to do that?
I think he will. I think he should. And I think that's what he ought to do with either candidate, to choose something they've said, make them defend it.
What about
the point of a debate?
If you're going to do that with Trump,
the point of a debate is to give it.
All right, so you think he will, and so do I. I think he'll bring up the WikiLeaks stuff. But with Trump, if he goes back to the Access Hollywood stuff, I don't think he's going to do that. I don't think Wallace is going to go back to the Access Hollywood stuff. Do you?
If he does, you pivot right off it. That's the point. The problem with Trump for the last 3 weeks is that he's had all kinds of attacks, and he simply can't get off the personal offense that he feels he has to respond to. It's a matter of his own dignity. He won't get off it. You and I know, everyone knows, his advisors know, that he should be pivoting off and go after her weaknesses, which are many. But he seems incapable of doing that.
Okay.
And that's why he's behind in all the polls that you cited.
Okay. Now, in your opinion, humble opinion,
Not really.
Can Trump win? I mean, if, say, he has a good debate on Wednesday, can he close it?
I don't think that he can do it himself. He needs an act of God or an act of Putin. Act of God would be some kind of medical problem with his opponent. Act of Putin would be something in WikiLeaks that links her directly to some kind of quid pro quo, some evidence that in return for money from who knows where, something tangible was given. That happens to be our standard. I think it's much too low a standard. It should be access. But we seem to accept the granting of access in return for money. That's how our system works. That's not a fatal offense. But if there is something of a quid pro quo right in there involving her directly, we heard today about the FBI and State Department wanting to trade favors, but that's underlings way down there in the bureaucracy.
Got to be her.
It's got to be her. And if it is there, that could swing it to the point where Trump, with a good close, could pull it out.
All right, but you know the press isn't going to report it very strongly, and that's
why
issue.
That's why God invented Fox.
But we've been fair in this campaign. We're not looking to take anything out of context. At least we're not.
But if something comes up, it'll be reported
here. That's for sure. Charles, thanks very much. Next on the rundown, we have some polling from important states, individual states. Carl Rove will help us with that. Then later, Waters with the bikers, talking politics. Also, Melania Trump defending her husband. Up ahead. Campaign 2016 segment tonight. As we said in the Talking Points memo, there are very few key states that will decide the presidential race. Here's some new polling. North Carolina, according to CNN poll, it's pretty much a tie. Hillary Clinton 48, Donald Trump 47. Same thing in Nevada. Clinton 46, Trump 44, within the margin of error. In Ohio, again, according to CNN poll, Trump leads by 4, 48-44. Joining us now from Austin, Texas, Carl Rove. So I just asked Charles Krauthammer if he sees Trump winning. He's, long shot, he would say. The betting people say 80% chance Hillary Clinton's going to win now. What do you think of those odds?
Well, I think he's got a very steep uphill climb. You talked at the beginning how he could win this by taking Ohio and Florida and Pennsylvania and North Carolina.
No, he needs 3 out of the 4. He's not going to. I don't think he's going to win Pennsylvania.
Okay, so he's not going to win Pennsylvania. Assume he wins everything else. He's at 253. He's got 17 electoral votes to pick it up. You say he's got to pick those up in the West. That's Nevada with 6,
right,
Colorado with 9, and New Mexico with 5. And I don't know anybody who thinks he's got a chance in New Mexico. The last time he led in a poll in Colorado was on the 23rd of September, just before the first debate. There have been 13 polls out there. 3 have been he led, all of them prior to September 23rd. 1 was a tie, and 9 of them Hillary's led. And in the Real Clear Politics average, she's leading by 8. So that's an awful steep.
It's a tough one in Colorado.
Let's say he gets Colorado and Nevada. That still gets him only to 268. Even if he wins Maine too, he's at 269 and 1 short of the
electoral college. Yeah, he's got to pick off
victory.
someplace like New Hampshire. And are you giving him Iowa in that calculation, by the way?
No, but I wouldn't give him. I would not give him Colorado. So give him Iowa, and he's at 259.
Okay, and then if he picks off New Hampshire, that wouldn't be enough. He'd still be short.
Yeah, well, if he gets Nevada, it gets him to 265. If he gets to New Hampshire, it gets him to 269. If he wins the 2nd district of Maine, it gets him to 270.
So,
but again, New Hampshire, way behind in New Hampshire.
Right. Assuming he loses Colorado, all right, because as you say, it's trending against him. When you said September 23rd, I want to remind everybody that's the Access Hollywood day, all right? So that's
no, that's October 7th is Access Hollywood. September 23rd is the last day of the polls before the first debate.
Okay, thank you for correcting me. But things started to go south after Access Hollywood, I would assume. I mean, even though the first debate, Hillary Clinton won the debate, it wasn't a kill shot. But then with her winning the debate and then the Access Hollywood, that's when you started to see these individual states go. Now, Trump is in Wisconsin tonight. We might give the folks a look. I don't know whether he's wrapping up or not, but we might give you a 90-second look at it. He thinks he's got a chance in Wisconsin. Is that realistic?
Well, there have been a couple of polls that showed that Ron Johnson, the Republican senator, is within striking distance of Democrat Feingold, Russ Feingold, whom he beat 6 years ago. Maybe Trump is taking some potential from that. But again, he's going weird places that I'm not certain he's got a shot in, and this is one of them.
Would you not send him to Wisconsin?
No, look, I think he's got to pick up. He's got to play to the inside straight, so he's got to try and get a big state. Maybe that big state is Wisconsin. They've got better data than I probably got access to. The public polling data doesn't point to Wisconsin. He was closer. He's been closer at times in Pennsylvania. If you've been close once, maybe you can get close again.
Yeah, he's still campaigning. He pulled out of Virginia, and I don't think anybody expected him to win Virginia because he got hammered there in the Republican primary. But at this point now, is there anything that Trump can do in the debate on Wednesday and then for the next 2.5 weeks to persuade people, in Pennsylvania? Is there anything he can do? I mean, he's got to do. He's got to make a big splash somehow.
Look, he's got to run a real campaign. I thought there was a lot of wisdom in the exchange between you and Charles. Both of you were, in your own way, saying that he has wasted time. I mean, think about it. We spent the week after the first debate. He spent that week talking about Miss Universe. He spent the week after the second debate both defending himself against all of these charges that arose as a result of the October 7th tape, plus picking a fight with the Republican Party and ending the week by talking about a sinister plot to deny him his election. He's got to get focused on the issues. And you're right. He's got to pick out 3, maybe 4, and stay on them. And he's got to be depicting himself as an agent of change and drawing on the things that happen in the real world to talk about each and every day. Let me give you an example. Last Wednesday, the governor of Minnesota, a Democrat, a very liberal Democrat, came out and said Obamacare is unsustainable and unaffordable. If I were the Trump campaign, I would have jumped on that and gone all out the next day, saying even the Democrat who believed in this program at the beginning realizes this is terrible. Look at all these people who are and he's got to do that each and every day.
He can't win with the tabloid stuff. He's got to get away from that, and he's got to say, "Here's what I'm going to do for you." Same thing with Hillary.
He's got to stop looking defensive. He's got to stop looking defensive. Same thing with Hillary Clinton.
Hillary Clinton's got to ignore Trump. It's like, look, I'm not a crook or whatever.
Well, she's got to depict herself as a candidate of some change. She can't look like exclusively a third term for Barack Obama.
Because she's really hitched her tail to the president. Mr. Rowe, thank you. Directly ahead, one national poll has been Trump friendly. We'll take a look at that situation. Also, comparing past presidents like Bush the Elder to Trump and Clinton. Is that a fair thing to do? Factors coming right back. Impact segment tonight. As we reported, most of the polls have Hillary Clinton beating Donald Trump, in some cases handily, but not the Rasmussen. There, Trump has been mostly ahead over the months, although Mrs. Clinton is now drawn into a tie with the margin of error. We also are following Trump speaking in Green Bay, Wisconsin. We'll put up a split screen so you can see he's got a nice, pretty little girl there he's talking to. There he is. And if he gets back on policy, he's got a 5-point ethic plan that he's talking about. We'll take a little bit of that. But first, here is Amy Holmes in the studio, analyzes politics for Rasmussen. So your poll has been more friendly to Trump than the others. Why?
It has been sometimes not. In fact, we've had Hillary ahead by a couple of points since August pretty consistently. But you could say every poll has different methodology. We look at 3 days in succession. Yeah. 500 people new each night. And we have it broken down 50% male, 50% female.
And that's nationwide.
And that's nationwide. It's a national poll. And it's also a 4-way race that we're always looking at.
And that's the 4-way race is the only way you have to do it. Right. But today you had Clinton up by 2, which is a statistical tie. It's a tie.
It is if you look within the margin of error.
Right. But if you look at CBS and NBC, NBC's got Clinton up by 11, CBS 9. That's a big difference.
It is a difference, and they also have a margin of error. But if you look at the trend lines, the polls tend to go in the same direction. So, for example, we had Hillary up, by a couple of points. Then we had the big Access Hollywood story, and that was like dropping a grenade into the Trump campaign. And then we had her 7 points ahead of Mr. Trump, which is well beyond the margin of error. Then you have the debate, and the folks, settling in their impressions of that, and Trump started to creep up. But then, of course, more revelations. Something that we're finding at Rasmussen that is different in this election cycle is how sensitive voters are to headlines. And the headlines have not been great for Mr. Trump.
So people are paying attention.
Very close attention. And that raises a lot of questions about the power of the media. Sure. What headlines they choose and how those drive voters' perceptions.
And the media knows it. The media absolutely knows it. And I'm sure that in the next 3 weeks we're going to see on both sides, mainly Trump. Right. All right, let's take a look at or listen to Mr. Trump out in Wisconsin.
Build our depleted military and take care of our great veterans. We're going to support the men and women of law enforcement. We will again repeal and replace Obamacare. Here's one very important to Wisconsin. We will save our Second Amendment, which is under siege. And we will appoint justices to the United States Supreme Court who will uphold and defend the Constitution of the United States. You have 22 days to make every dream for yourself and your family come true. On November 8th, arrogance of Washington, D.C. will come face to face with the righteous verdict of the American voter, which is you. I'm going to fight for every citizen of every background from every stretch of this nation. I'm going to fight for every child living in poverty. We have so much poverty in this country, which is so hard to believe. I'm going to fight for every mom who lost her child to illegal immigration and drugs and gang violence. I'm going to fight for every community whose jobs and dreams have been ripped out and shipped to other countries. So many. I'm going to fight for every person in this country who believes government should serve the people, not the donors and special interests. I'm going to fight to bring us all together as Americans. We live in a very divided country. We're not going to live in a divided country much longer. There's going to be spirit. We're going to get along.
All right. I want to thank Amy Holmes from Rasmussen for being with us. The reason we took that is because that is an exact preview of what Donald Trump's going to say in the debate on Wednesday night. He's going to go Second Amendment. He's going to go Obamacare. He's going to go issues. That's why we took it for you. That's a preview. Plenty more ahead as the factor moves along this evening. Melania Trump speaking out, trying to convince women to vote for her husband. We'll show you some of that. Then Waters talking politics with the bikers.
What do you want to see the next president of the United States do? Number one, not be a crook. Don't lie to us on a continual basis. Actually keep our money as opposed to...
We hope you stay tuned for those reports. Personal Story segment tonight, Melania Trump giving some interviews, speaking with Ainsley Earhardt on Fox and Friends tomorrow morning.
it is 3 weeks before the elections. All these women coming out, and they are allegations that they are not true. Why now? Why 3 weeks before the election? What they're accusing my husband, that is not the person that I know.
What is your message to these women? What would you like to say to them?
That all the allegations should be handled in a court of law and without the evidence. To accuse somebody, is a man or a woman, it's damaging and it's unfair.
Joining us now from Boston, Democrat Marianne Marsh, and in Las Vegas, Republican Monica Crowley. So all the polls say the same thing, that Hillary Clinton's winning with women by historic margins right now. Obviously, that's why Melania Trump was put out to talk about this. Do you think that Trump can persuade some women, Monica, who have drifted away from him?
Well, Donald Trump is doing fine with Republican and conservative women, but you're right, Bill, that when it comes to the general electorate, he is running a historic gender gap of about 20 points. Any Republican was going to face a very difficult challenge, given that the Democrats have nominated the first woman, and the historic gender gap that's always advantaged Democrats. But I think in Donald Trump's case, he's faced a tougher challenge because he is an alpha male candidate who has said these indelicate things about women in the past. I think going forward, he needs to talk about all national issues as women's issues, meaning economic growth, job creation, building the wall, dealing with illegal immigration, Obamacare, which a lot of women care about, which is in almost total collapse right now, and the existential threat posed by Islamic fundamentalism.
You would, but you didn't answer the question. Can he win them back? Say he does all that. Say he takes your advice. Can he win them back?
I think he has a fighting chance if he starts speaking directly to them about the issues that directly affect their livelihoods and the security of their families.
Marianne, I asked Trump last week and Pence when they were on last week, hey, you're going to target women, or you're going to try, and they didn't have a plan to do that, and I was kind of surprised about that.
It's too late for him to win them back. What he needs is a low turnout. He can't win them back. He's in a box. So historically, what you would do is run a really negative campaign that would turn women off from voting. But if women show up and vote, he loses.
Well,
if they stay home, he wins.
If he does what Marianne suggests and goes into some of the emotional issues of economics and pocketbook and security, why couldn't he peel off some independent women to get them back? I mean, there's no great love for Hillary Clinton in the independent precincts, Marianne.
He can't peel off enough. It's gone too far.
How do you know?
And they don't try. I look at the polling, you go in the regression analysis, and to go back to that tape 10 days ago, that's when the bottom fell out with women. He's regained Republicans back. He's still about 6 points short of having all the Republicans back, but he has lost women.
He lost
so what
the
he needs is a
independent
lower
women.
turnout. Yes, and he lost white college-educated women, largely in the suburbs, which for the past 60 years have always voted Republican in presidential elections, and they're not this year.
All right, last
Almost
question.
Impossible to
I
get
need
them
20 seconds, and I tight 20. Melania Trump going out, smart move, Monica?
Very smart. I mean, she's her husband's greatest and most staunch character witness. We need to see more of her. And she's right to point out that this is a coordinated hit job.
Okay, Marianne, smart to put Melania out there?
It is, but elections are conducted in the court of public opinion, not the court of law, and the voters are going to decide whether they believe Donald Trump or his accusers,
but she gets
and
a lot
how
of
much she weighs in
attention.
this.
Melania Trump gets a lot of attention.
But she hasn't been on the campaign trail, so she doesn't have standing with voters right now.
Ladies, thank you as always. We appreciate it. We come right back comparing presidents like Reagan and Bush, the elder, to Clinton and Trump. Is that fair? Then Waters walking on the wild side in Florida with the bikers. You don't want to miss this one. Moments away. Thanks for staying with us. I'm Bill O'Reilly in the Factor Follow-Up segment tonight. I hope you saw the movie Killing Reagan last night. It was a great political drama. The highlight for me, who wrote the book, was the strength Ronald Reagan showed after he was almost assassinated. Most Americans have a deep respect for President Reagan. Joining us now from Nashville, John Meacham, author of the brand new book out tomorrow, Destiny and Power, about another American icon, the American ISC of George Herbert Walker Bush. So, is it fair to compare men like Reagan and Bush the elder to Clinton and Trump?
I don't see how we avoid comparisons. President Reagan himself, as you know, had an active historical imagination. In many ways, he modeled his conduct of the presidency on the man he voted for 4 times, Franklin Roosevelt. He understood that you had to connect with people. He understood you had to, the art of leadership, really from watching and living under President Roosevelt. President Bush was a devotee of President Eisenhower's and thought a lot about him and how he had led. So as presidents, I think they need predecessors to guide how they do it. And I think as voters, we need some kind of historical GPS to try to figure out what we're getting.
Certainly, this election, no matter who you support, you have 2 charismatic individuals, Trump and Clinton. And you have, though, along with that, very dubious resumes. And there are no rules anymore. That's different. I don't know if people understood. Like Ronald Reagan, for example, if you read Killing Reagan, when Reagan was an actor, I mean, he hung around with Errol Flynn. I mean, he did things that, today would be everyday, all-day cable news, yet wasn't mentioned at all in the 1980 campaign. So there are no rules now, and I think that diminishes everyone who runs for higher office.
It's the scrutiny is greater than ever, unquestionably. As you say, President Reagan, when he came into office in 1981, had to deal with what? The morning shows, an afternoon paper, a morning paper, the network news, and was just then beginning to have to deal with Nightline, which had come out of the Iranian hostage crisis. They were able to actually think in terms of a message of the day or a message
they could
of
shape
the week.
It, but it was more than that, John. It was more. They were boundaries. Look, the journalists knew that Dwight Eisenhower had a personal indiscretion. They knew JFK was a womanizer. They knew LBJ, Lyndon Johnson, was a womanizer. They knew all this, okay? But they didn't report it. It wasn't done. And now, not only do they report stuff like this, they seek it. They seek it out. It becomes the issue. Iran and ISIS don't stand a chance up against Access Hollywood. And that is the reality.
No, the tabloid culture has totally infected the political culture. There's no question about that. I think it's to some extent after Vietnam, after Watergate, you know this, you lived through it, right after that. No reporter ever wanted to get caught being the one who was credulous. And so they became, in many ways, overly cynical. There's been an overcorrection, to some extent, in the political culture to kick folks in the shins as much as possible.
Now, there was a time in Bush the Elder's presidency where he was confronted by an NBC reporter named Stone Phillips. Do you remember this?
I did.
And Stone Phillips went in there to ask him about rumors of a personal indiscretion. I'll never forget this because Phillips and I were contemporaries. And Bush the Elder looked at him and said, "Watch it." And that was the end of that.
Yeah.
That was the end of that. All right. These days, all day long.
Yeah, he actually, it's your example is a good one. He actually said about that, I couldn't believe he would say something like that in the Oval Office.
Yeah, he's referring to Stone Phillips.
Yeah, and dealing, and it was that sense of decorum. Reagan had it, Bush 41 had it. And there's also a generational difference, right? I mean, the Reagan and Bush were, Reagan was born in 1911, Bush was born in 1924. Bush was the last president of the World War II generation. In many ways, I think the 20th century ended 8 years early with Bill Clinton defeating
that
George
ushered
Bush.
in the tabloid culture that we all enjoy so much. Hey, I want everybody to check out Meacham's book on Bush the Elder, well worth reading. Thanks for coming on, John.
Thanks, Bill.
Waters on deck. He's hanging with the bikers. Can't wait to see his outfit. Waters is next. Back in the book segment tonight, Waters World. You may have noticed we are sending Jesse Waters to unusual places to talk politics. That's because all voices are welcome here on A Factor. Keeping that in mind, Waters went to Daytona Beach, Florida to check out Bike Biketoberfest.
What's Biketoberfest all about?
Biketoberfest is all about the bikes, the hot guys on bikes, drinking and girls.
In that particular order?
Well, no, probably girls and then the drinking.
Are you a real ladies' man?
Yes, love the women.
Where are all the girls around you right now? I fit in right.
Yeah, sort of.
What am I doing wrong?
The collar is...
Just a little. Hold on. Wait.
One of us had their own personal stylist, and one of us shoplifts from Fashion Bug. That's what I know.
Bill O'Reilly. You think he'd survive down here?
Damn right he would. He's a tough guy. Looking for a man named O'Reilly.
Any advice for me here at Biketoberfest?
Just follow the crowd, man.
Where did all these people come from?
Floating party.
You guys are supporting Trump or Hillary?
I'm not voting.
Why? Felony conviction?
No, just not interested in either of the candidates.
I don't like either one.
The hell with Hillary.
I'm a Republican. You can't. If you don't win, I'm moving to Iran.
That might be a bad decision. Are there any Hillary voters out here?
I haven't seen one yet.
What do you want to see the next president of the United States do?
Win. He's got to win. Mr. Trump has got to win.
What do you think the next president needs to do?
Support the Second Amendment.
Number one, not be a crook. Don't lie to us.
Come to Daytona Biketoberfest, and Trump will.
In terms of this country right now, what is your top priority?
We got to secure the borders. That's the bottom line.
What do you think the next president should do about the southern border?
I have no clue. Maybe close it down, open it up. I don't know.
Fence it off with a 30-foot wall.
Wall just got taller.
Yes.
Who's going to pay for it?
Let Trump do it. He said he would.
What do you want to see the next president do?
The very first thing I want to see him do?
You mean her?
I'm just being humorous.
What would you like to see our next president do?
Legalize marijuana for one and take our country out of debt.
What if we're so high we can't get out of debt?
I don't think we could be that high.
I get the munchies.
Tax cuts would be great.
Big time?
Oh, yeah.
I want health insurance, and I can't get it.
I thought Obamacare was supposed to solve that problem.
Obama.
What do you think we should do about all this crime in the inner city?
Start having a better police force and policing it better.
What do you think the next president of the United States should do?
Oh, my God, man. Honestly, I make something better. I don't know.
What do you think the top priority for the next president should be?
Let's make Congress do its job.
What would you like to see the next president do about ISIS?
Blow them up. Get them out.
Blow them right to hell and take the oil.
Everything that my kid did over in that country, ISIS has took over.
Have you ever been waterboarded?
Waterboarded, like surfing and stuff? All I need are some tasty waves, cool buzz, and I'm fine.
Try on your jacket.
Sure.
There you go.
Is this a slim fit? Always remember one thing.
Yes.
I'm Waters.
And this is your world.
Yeah, you finished it for me.
So here's Waters. I think Trump will carry Biketoberfest.
By a landslide.
Yeah, is that how you got it?
I think so.
No, the people who just don't care, there's a lot of them, right? They're into their hobbies and they zoom around.
It's the fumes, I think, from the exhaust.
Yeah.
Maybe it's confusing people.
There might be other fumes involved. I want to tell everybody that Waters may not be as lively as he usually is because he played football on Saturday,
I'm
right?
still a little sore.
Yeah.
Great hands, though. How about those hands? They
What?
called me Odell Beckham.
How many touchdowns did I throw you?
I think you threw me 5.
5 touchdowns.
5 touchdowns.
I look like Eli Manning out
You
there.
did. You did. You actually did look like him. You were wearing jeans and a tucked-in shirt.
Yeah, I know. I'm old school. I tuck in the shirt, you know.
Yeah.
All right, there's Waters, and we will see you going to Vegas.
I am.
See you on Thursday for a little reaction
Yes,
to the
you will.
debate. That should be interesting. And now, fact or tip of the day, Arnold Palmer, a legend. There's something about him you might like to know. The tip, moments away. Dr. Tip of the day, Arnold Palmer can teach us all something in a moment. But first, another amazing promotion on BillO'Reilly.com. Sign up or re-up your premium membership. Get Killing the Rising Sun or any of my other books free of charge. Also, Lise Wheel's new book, The Candidate, free. And a copy of the Constitution. What more can we do? 3 freebies for just signing up or re-up. Now to Mel. Marcus Reichart of Vienna, Austria. Mr. O'Reilly, as a European interested in American politics, I agree with your talking points. This is a sad time for the voter. But you should also be self-critical about contributing to the polarized environment. Well, we tell the truth here, Marcus. If that's polarizing, so be it. You may have noticed that we don't endorse and we use few ideological zealots. We try to book the most honest people and let the chips fall. Elias Aisho, Sweden. I believe most American polls are oversampling Democrats. Why should we view them as reliable? It's a good question, Elias. We analyzed the polling from 2012 and found most were close to the final tally between Obama and Romney. That's what we found on an independent investigation. Now, this time around, the Trump people believe their supporters are not being polled to a great extent. Therein lies their hope. Victoria Baldwin, Parker, Chino, California. Our family just watched Killing Reagan, found it totally riveting. We believe it merits Emmy consideration. Well, we're hoping, Victoria. Killing Kennedy and Killing Jesus were nominated. I thought Tim Matheson was lights out as a president. Manny Reyes, Mountain View, California. What a great movie. Now I fully understand what happened the day Reagan was shot. Nancy Bond, Desdemona, Texas. I worked for the Reagans in the 60s and want to applaud the film for a truly excellent depiction. Mike Bennett, Vallejo, California. Bill, in light of your latest book, Killing the Rising Sun, do you think the younger generation of Americans are capable of defeating global aggression like those who fought in World War II? Excellent question, Mike. Those who freely join the military today are. We have the best armed forces in the world. But if a draft were reimposed, problems would occur. Americans grown soft. Those drafted in World War II were children of the Great Depression. Tough times make tough people. Wanda Begley, Fresno, California, had to search to find Killing the Rising Sun at the Costco here. It was under the table. Very unusual, Wanda. Costco is now the #1 biggest seller of my books in the country. They usually do a great job. And a very happy birthday to Margaret Burns, who lives in Cottonwood, Arizona. Margaret, 106 today. Way to go, Margaret. Wow. Finally, tonight, fact tip of the day, the legendary golfer Arnold Palmer recently passed, but left behind something important. The old school guy put down on paper some of the lessons he learned while achieving superstar status. A book called Arnold Palmer, A Life Well Played is a fascinating read. How he dealt with his daughter's cancer and his own cancer is a must-read part of the book. Factor tip of the day, check out A Life Well Played. And that is it for us tonight. Please check out the Fox News Factor website, different from BillO'Reilly.com. Also, we'd like you to spout off the Factor from anywhere in the world. O'Reilly at FoxNews.com. O'Reilly at FoxNews.com. Name and town if you wish to opine word of the day. Do not be indolent when writing to the Factor. Now, tomorrow I'll be on Colbert in support of Killing the Rising Sun. I don't just go over there for laughs and snacks. There's a reason. But I'll be on Colbert tonight. Tomorrow, okay, we have a great debate preview program scheduled for you. And as you know, anything can happen at any time.